Good afternoon. My name is Richard Jaech. I'm the Bishop of the Lutheran Church, the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America in southwestern Washington and the Olympic Peninsula. I welcome you all here today. I and a good cohort of friends will be speaking, first of all, against the executive order banning immigration and refugees to the United States. And then we'll also be providing information about both a Senate bill and a House resolution here in Washington State that will serve to protect the citizens of our state in this regard. Hear, hear, hear. I would like to speak out first against the executive order against immigrants and refugees. I speak from a Christian tradition as I say these words, but that executive order is both un-American and un-Christian. In the Lutheran Church, we have a service arm, a service agency of our church called Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Service that for the past 77 years, since 1939, has helped settle 500,000 refugees from around the world, beginning in Europe, from Bosnia, from Vietnam, from Iraq, and now from Syria. We feel that it's part of God's calling to be a home, to be a help and a refuge to people who are coming out of places of war and violence and poverty. I think that the executive order puts in danger the very ideals and dreams of our nation, but in my tradition, I would say they are clearly against the way that Christ has taught us. Let me talk about the un-American part. I grew up in West Seattle, so I'm a native of Washington since birth. And I can remember from the very first day in kindergarten and through elementary school that the one fact of history that I learned again and again is that the United States, America, is a place that values freedom of religion. The one history fact that was presented to us each year again and again is that from the Pilgrims onward, the Pilgrims who are the first group of refugees to come to the United States, to come to the Americas, that America is based upon a true sense and a true dream that people from all over the world, people of much diversity, including the diversity of religion, are welcomed in these shores. It was the first nation to really live that out, and it's an ideal that we hold very true. And so to begin to apply an order that's still being contested in the courts, but we have to keep our eye on it, to begin to impose an order that would screen refugees according to their faith and their religion is a stab wound to the American soul. It is against the very ideals on which we were based, and so we must oppose it. For me, to go even deeper than that, for me as a person of the Christian faith, it is so much against the way of Christ, the way that Jesus taught us to live, those of us in the Christian faith tradition. Jesus again and again throughout the Gospels is welcoming people to the table, welcoming people out of their suffering, out of their loneliness, out of their broken communities, welcoming them to the table. Jesus again and again is welcoming those who are particularly in times of distress. So in the 11th chapter of St. Matthew, Jesus says, "Come unto me, all you that are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." That's what Jesus said, and that's what the community, the followers of Jesus, are to do too. At the end of Matthew's gospel, in chapter 25, he's looking at the final judgment, and he says, when you welcomed the stranger, when you welcomed the stranger in your home, you were welcoming me in because I am one of them, I am with them. So today, when we are welcoming refugees from Somalia and from Iraq and from Syria, we are welcoming them in the Spirit of Christ, and we are welcoming them as brothers and sisters. And so that is a ministry that's essential to who we are as Americans, but also as people of faith. I'm very grateful that as we speak to you today, it is representatives of different faith traditions that will speak to you. Because as sisters and brothers, as followers of God, as the people of God, the children of God, this is something we work together on. This is something we do together. Because we will not let executive orders divide us. We will stand together and we will help those in need. Yes. Thank you very much. I would like to welcome and introduce next Rabbi Ruth Zlotnick of Temple of Beth Am from Seattle.
And like Bishop Jaech, I speak today as a person of faith, as a Jew, and as an American. And let me frame this for a moment with a Jewish framework. Because 36 times in Torah we are told to love the stranger as yourself, because you yourselves were once strangers in the land of Egypt. So for Jews, it is a moral obligation to love the strangers, but lest you think this is just a quaint sacred text, we Jews weren't just strangers millennia ago. We were strangers in this country 75 years ago. 75 years ago, we were the strangers who were the target of an America First campaign. 75 years ago, we were the ones who were barred from this country to devastating results. And because of that, we will not do that again. We will not stand idly by. We will not be silent. We will never forget, and we will stand by our Muslim brothers and sisters. Silence and passivity is dangerous, and our Muslim friends are not strangers. They are our neighbors. And so it is incumbent on us to eradicate the culture of fear and hatred that surrounds us. It is incumbent upon us to create legislation that protects our neighbors, to let them live freely, to pray freely. As we were walking over, Aneelah, who you'll hear from in just a moment, was sharing with me how our Muslim neighbors are scared. And we in the Jewish community want you to know that we stand with you. All of us people of faith, we create around us when we stand together a Sukkot Shalom, a shelter of peace, a sanctuary for all of us. And so 36 times we hear, love the stranger as yourself, for you yourselves came out of Egypt as strangers. In this week's Torah portion, we read about how our ancestors emerged from the Sea of Reeds to the shores of freedom. I believe strongly, especially so inspired by all the people who are here today, that together as we stand strongly, we will create that Sukkot Shalom, that shelter of peace, through our legislation, through our actions, by reaching out to our neighbors. Let us live by these values so that we can truly return America to the values on which we were founded. And it is my honor to introduce now a woman who has become an inspiration to me, the Executive Director of MAPS, Amen, Aneelah Afzali.
Thank you so very much, Rabbi Ruth, and everybody else here. I am a proud American Muslim. But right now, I'm hurting as both an American and a Muslim. We have seen unprecedented levels of hate crimes against Muslims in our country, 67% increase in the year 2015. And the recent executive order has created fear and anxiety among many communities, including my own community, the over 5,000 families that go to the Muslim Association of Puget Sound, my mosque. And we even had our sign vandalized 2 times. We know that the recent executive order is not about safety or security. It is about religious bigotry. It is motivated by Islamophobia, racism, and xenophobia, by those who seek to divide us and profit from fear and hate. But we here in Washington State reject that, because we recognize that an attack on any of us is an attack on all. And because, yes, thank you. And because some of our communities are under attack, we as people of faith and as Americans have an obligation to act. That's why we welcome and need to support HB 1956 and SB 5308 to protect religious liberties and welcome our friends and neighbors. This is our duty as Americans, as patriots, and as proud Washingtonians. It is our duty to speak out in this fight for the soul of our country and stand on our cherished American values of religious freedom. And as people of faith, we also have a religious and moral duty to challenge injustice and speak truth to power, especially at a time when deception and alternative facts are promoted around us. Our moral values and shared American values compel us to take action, like supporting these bills. But we also have to address the root of the problem, and not just its symptoms. And the root is Islamophobia, racism, and xenophobia. So here are 3 actions each of you can take to actually address the root. First is education. Educate yourself about Islam and about the small but very well-funded network of groups that have spent over $200 million to demonize Islam and Muslims. And meet Muslims, because it's easy to dehumanize a minority that you don't know. 2, politics. Contact your representatives and regularly and remain engaged in political action like supporting these bills, but also other bills like the one sponsored by Representative Suzanne Delbene, prohibiting religious registries. And most important, use the media. Publicly and vocally speak about the lives and contributions of the American Muslims you know to personalize Muslims for our fellow Americans, especially because the majority of Americans do not personally know a Muslim. And they may not listen to somebody who looks like me, but they might listen to you or you. So please use that potential. And your letter to the editor or op-ed in mainstream media is a way to amplify your message and potentially change the hearts and minds of millions of our fellow Americans. You can send an email to letters@seattletimes.com and also use social media and personal conversations to denounce anti-Muslim attacks and rhetoric, to remind our fellow Americans of our shared values and express solidarity and talk about your faith values in the process. Each of you has that incredible power and potential to act and make a difference, to act on our shared American and faith values and bring us together as the United States of America with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And now it's my honor to introduce the Senate sponsor of this bill, Senator Palumbo.
Hello, everybody. Salam, shalom, and peace be with you. Thank you all for coming today. This is really heartwarming, and I thank you very much to the Faith Action Network who's here for putting this on. It's an important topic that I think everybody in this room obviously knows. It's something that we need to speak out about. So I'm a new senator for those that don't know. I represent the Bothell area along with Shelley and Derek, who are my seatmates here in the House. We have a very large and growing Hindu, Sikh, and Muslim population. And coming into office, I wanted to see what I could do because we knew that we had to fight back against the Trump administration and what his rhetoric was on the campaign trail. We didn't know what he was going to do at that point, and now we do with the Muslim ban. That was before that. But we wanted to figure out what we could do to protect our citizens and our Washingtonian values. We almost needed to build a wall around our state to keep DC out. So I kind of came up with this idea just to make sure that we could prevent our state agencies from participating in any kind of Muslim registry that they may try to put forth. I'm glad to hear that we mentioned Susan Delbene, who's our congresswoman, and she's trying to do that at the federal level, so I thought we should try to do something at the state level. So we work with our excellent Governor Jay Inslee to kind of figure out in our report, yes, please, Governor Jay Inslee, yes. We wanted to work with his agencies just to find out if this data might live anywhere in our state government, and if so, how can we get a way to block it? So that's basically the intent of this law. In the Senate, I do have Joe Fain as a sponsor as well, so there is bipartisan support there, although I don't really feel very confident that we'll get a hearing in the Senate. It's why I'm thrilled when I got a call from Representative Derek Stanford because he wanted to do a companion bill in the House, and it seems as though it's going to get a lot more traction in the House. But regardless if we pass it this year or next year or whenever, it's important that what you've heard here today, I believe in deeply. It is our job as elected officials and my job as a state senator to speak out. I'm in a position of power, as are the rest of the representatives here, and it's our job to speak out for our Muslim brothers and sisters. I'm going to continue to do that. So thank you again for coming today, and I'm my honor to introduce Representative Stanford, my seatmate.
Well, thank you very much. Religious freedom and religious tolerance are American values, and they're Washington values. Our state is home to people of diverse ethnic and religious backgrounds, and right now, they're feeling threatened. They're feeling scared, and we need to stand up for them. That's what this legislation does. These bills protect people who are dealing with discrimination. They send a message to children in schools that we are going to stand with them, that we are going to help them stand up to the bullies. Because we know what bullies look like. We know what a reckless president looks like and the damage that it does to our communities. And we're not going to stand for it. That's why, after talking with constituents and legislators, I wanted to figure out what we could do at the state level to take a stand and send a message that we are not going to stand by silently and watch the scapegoating of an entire religious community. We can't let that happen.